Okay guys, we're almost finished with this on-ramp. You're almost ready to jump right into class. I hope you've been working on your breathing. I hope you've been just more aware of your positioning and your movement. Maybe you notice your tendency. Those are going to be really important things that we're going to focus on as we exercise and move forward with the pregnancy and postpartum training group. But I do want to go over one last thing, and this also goes with the download that you should have received in this training. But a lot of times we're told in pregnancy and after to just listen to our bodies, and that's a very general guidance that we receive in this chapter when it comes to exercise. Now, if you're someone who maybe has worked out a lot in the past, you enjoy exercise, you've pushed yourself, maybe you're a marathoner, a runner, or triathlete, or CrossFitter, or someone who lifts weights, we have been training our brains so much in our own exercise journeys to really shut off kind of the feedback from our bodies. You know the feeling when you're in the middle of a really hard workout and you want to quit, and maybe you have some pains or you're really out of breath or something's going on, but maybe a coach is telling us to just push through or we got to finish, and so we kind of shut off that voice that tells us to stop, and we continue and push through for the sake of our fitness. So that's where we're coming from. And so when you tell someone who's been trained in that way to just listen to their bodies, they don't know what to listen for. They don't know how to really tune back in to those voices that our body is telling us, or those things that our body is telling us. We don't know how to tune into those maybe little pains or tweaks or aches or leaking or things like that. And instead we just are always pushing through. We're trying to work harder, push harder. And just in the pregnancy and postpartum period, that's not exactly a mindset that we want to take on. There are things that we really do need to listen for. There's feedback from our body that we really need to pay attention to. And so what I want to do is identify the very clear things that we're listening for so that you know how to listen to your body. And as we move forward in this class and in the pregnancy and postpartum training group, and even onward beyond that in exercise, just in general, whether you stick around for a while or move on to something else, I want to tell you the things that we're going to look for. And especially in class, if you experience any of these things at all while you're doing an exercise, I want you to at least tell me, let me know. These are not shameful things. We talk about vaginas and urine and leaking and bowels all the time, and it's not a big deal, not anything to be ashamed of, but it is something that we need to be aware of, and I want to work with you on. So the first thing to look for is incontinence. So that could be leaking some urine. It could be leaking a little bit of urine. It could be leaking a lot of urine. And there's even cases of fecal incontinence. So maybe you kind of poop your pants a little bit, or you feel like you're going to. Maybe you don't exactly have urine that's leaking, but even though you went to the bathroom right before, you feel like the urge to go over and over and over again. So that's a big sign that there's some kind of pelvic floor dysfunction going on, or that movement is placing a lot of stress on the pelvic floor and on the core as a whole, or even just the way that you're doing the movement. Maybe you're holding your breath, maybe you're bearing down, or your position could be tweaked a little bit. We just want to be aware of that and adjust accordingly, or pull back in that for now. So incontinence is number one. Number two is just any pelvic pain, especially if you're postpartum. A lot of times our pelvis takes a while to kind of come back after birth, and the hormones still surging in our bodies make our tendons and our pelvis in general just really lax. And so there can be a lot of shifting and movement in our pelvis still, even 6 to 8 weeks plus after having a baby. And so it's really important to just be aware of any pelvic pain. I see this a lot in lateral movements, so moving side to side. Just be aware if that's uncomfortable and let me know if you experience any of that. So any pelvic pain. The third thing, this might seem a little weird, but once you experience it, you know. But just any type of bulging or pressure in your vagina. I also kind of explain it as like you feel like a tampon's about to fall out, even though you don't have one in. It just feels like there's something in there that's trying to come out of your vagina. We want to avoid that feeling. That could be a sign of pelvic organ prolapse, which is nothing to be afraid of, but we just really need to adjust our breathing strategies, and especially see a pelvic floor physical therapist if you are experiencing any bulging or feeling pressure like something's falling out. The next thing we want to look for is any coning or doming of the abdomen. And if you're early in pregnancy, you may be like, what do you mean? But you'll know when you experience it. A lot of times if you sit up out of bed and you look at your belly, you might notice that the middle comes to a point. And that's just a natural cause of diastasis recti in pregnancy or an abdominal separation. And there's just that fascia in the middle called the linea alba. Again, this is a totally normal thing we experience in pregnancy, but we just don't want to place more stress on the linea alba more than we need. So if you're pregnant, especially or postpartum, and we're healing that diastasis, then we really want to look at those movements that we experience coning, see if there's any breathing strategy that we can adjust during that movement, or we may just pull back on that movement, build some strength in the abdominals before we try it again. So if you experience any coning or doming, or you notice that in a movement, then we definitely want to pull back and adjust on that. Those are the main things we want to look for. If you're pregnant, if you're experiencing really dizziness, you feel overheated, you feel really dehydrated, anything like that, definitely we want to pull back. I want you to rest. So just those big basic things, please feel free to talk to me about. But any of these things, if you're experiencing them at all in exercise, it's not good to push through those things. It's not good to just be like, oh, I'll just wear a pad during exercise, and if I pee, it's fine. Those are all signs that something's going on, that there's just a core management issue, and those are the things that we want to heal and that we want to be adjusting for. You don't have to live with incontinence and pelvic pain, pain during sex forever. Those are not things that you are just destined to have now that you've had a baby. So we're going to be working on that and reducing those symptoms in this class, but then also I would highly recommend visiting a pelvic floor physical therapist. You have to get a referral from your OB, but even just one session with a PFPT in the area can be really helpful and really insightful to see if there's anything going on in your specific body, in your specific musculature, because there could be a whole wide range of things. It's not just a weakness in your pelvic floor. It's not just abdominal separation, but there can be so many different things going on. And you'd be shocked to hear and see what could be going on in your pelvic floor that's causing these issues. And so you deserve to get help for that. I want to guide you, but also I know that there are other professionals that can really help give you really specific guidance on what exactly is going on with your muscles. So I hope that helped.